Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Horse Center. Myself, Swiss Army Shawn, and our special guest tonight, Skylar Spanabel. Skylar, how are you this evening?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Well, we're doing fantastic. You know what's even greater? What's great about having a younger person join us, Shawn?
What's that?
To see if you can figure it out. There's not 15 minutes of trying to tell them how to connect.
There you go.
That's funny.
That's true. It's funny but true, unfortunately. Not fortunately, it's the way it goes. So, in any case, thanks for joining us tonight. So, you're down in Tampa right now, and you're going to be up in Delaware. You were telling us that before we came on air. So, tell us a little bit about how you're liking Tampa. And for those folks who are looking at the Tampa Bay Derby this weekend, what sort of track angles should we be looking at?
Okay. I really enjoy Tampa. It's been a delight being down here, and the people are wonderful. And they've given me more opportunities than I ever thought they would. And I've won more races than I thought. I had a goal of 5, and I'm at 9 now. And the meet's not over yet, so I'm pretty happy with that. It's a very tough colony filled with very good riders from all over the country, and it's not easy, especially if you've never been here. The track itself is pretty nice, and it's a lot different than what I'm used to because it's a sand track. And that's one thing you have to think about when you think about the Derby coming up is it's not a dirt track like all the other tracks in the country. It's sand. And one thing I really learned being down here is you have to watch the tide. The tide is in, the track is faster. And when the tide is out, it can be a lot slower. So track might be really slow in the early races and get really tight as we get later through the day, especially on Saturday's cards, because we carry a lot of races. So the tide really gets the chance to change during the races throughout.
So you want to run that by me one more time? Tide in fast, tide out slow, or the other way around?
I think it's the other way around. As I was saying it, I was thinking to myself, I think I said it wrong. That's one thing I'm still getting used to.
So tide out fast.
Yes.
Okay, tide out fast, tide in slow. So I'll have to do my tide projections when I'm doing my handicapping as well, for sure.
It's pretty different, but it's something you really have to consider because the track does change through every race, especially throughout the day.
So that's interesting. I did not know. That's the first I've heard of that, Shawn. I hope probably about the same for you.
Yeah, definitely.
I did notice too, looking at your past performances at Delaware this past meet and at Tampa now, it seems like you've had a little bit more success on dirt sprints and like you're improving now on grass. That seems to be the path you're on. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, grass races, I was good at them when I started my bug, when I first was allowed to be on the turf, but I had I'm not going to lie, I had a little bit of a mental block on the turf because in 2019, in September, I broke my arm on the turf and I was out for a year. And that it played a little part in how I rode my turf races for a little while, but I fully would like to say that I'm getting over it. I'm a lot better now. And I mean, it's crazy, but your mind has a lot of effect on how you ride, and going through something so traumatic on one surface can sadly affect you on it. And I'd like to say that I'm over it, if not completely.
Yeah, over and out. Out of sight, out of mind, right? One of those things. I don't mind because it doesn't matter anymore, as my mom used to tell me when I would try to give her a ton of excuses. That's the way that works for sure. So you got your start riding in Michigan, right? Because your mom was a jockey. And so your mom, is that your inspiration to be a jockey?
Yes, of course. I would always be there for her races, and she would always have me helping with the barn and galloping and everything. And my mom is a very tough rider. I mean, she'll get knocked down and she'll get right back up and ride the very next race. Like she never quits and never stopped. And she was so brave. And I was like inspired to be that brave and inspired to be that committed to loving the sport. And I love the sport so much. And just being around her all the time and going to the jocks room when I was a kid and when I was a baby with her all the time, I was always around it, and I just couldn't get enough of it. I couldn't wait until I could start riding.
Well, now you're doing it. So congratulations on meeting that goal. Hopefully it's a long-lasting one. But you did say somewhere along the line that you planned on being a nurse. So are you going to be a nurse or are you going to be a jockey? Where are you going to go with that?
I get asked that a lot. But ironically enough, I got the nursing degree I'm finishing up is to be there in case I stop riding. I don't plan to stop riding, but if it's a very risky sport and you never know what's going to happen. So if I have to stop at any point, I'm not surrounded with no job. Just I want to make sure I have something to fall back on.
Well, that makes good sense. Charles wants to know why you never get the rail when you have a speed horse. Just bad luck?
It kind of depends. If you're on the inside, then you're gonna have the rail, obviously, and you get a good enough break. But it all depends on the break. If you have a speed horse, if the rail is deep, like I said with Tampa, with the surface changing so much, you gotta watch it. If most people at Tampa don't take the rail, and Vernon actually gave me that tip to take the rail when I get a chance, because if you get close enough to the rail, it actually becomes hard, and it's almost like they're running on concrete, so they can go a lot faster. So it all depends on how you break in the good position and what post position you have. But I can try to get a speed horse to go up the rail, because like I said, if you get up to the rail close enough, it's hard enough that it'll go faster than the outside horses.
So I have to keep an eye on that. The tide out and get down.
Yeah, Skylar's gonna have to keep us updated on that, so we know what we're betting.
Yes, we'll have to find I'm sure there's like a tide, like there's a weather forecast.
Yeah,
I would have to guess. I mean, for boaters and stuff, there has to be a tide forecast.
There is, yeah.
Skylar, that's funny you brought up Vernon Bush, because I was gonna say we asked him who was the up and coming rider, and no pressure, but he said you.
Yeah, no pressure. He's been really good to me. He's always helping me, especially down here in Tampa. Up in Michigan, he was riding and things up there, and he's been giving me a lot of tips about the track, because I mean he knows the track so well, and he's been giving me just tips on riding. And we lost touch for a couple of years because he was down here and I was up north, but we've touched base back now that I'm down here, and it's been great. He's been helping me a lot. I go to him for any questions I have, and it's been working out.
Any other people you look up to besides your mom and Vernon Bush that have helped you along the way?
Oh, that have helped me along the way? Ty Kennedy. I'm not really sure where he's riding right now. He's kind of moving around, but Ty Kennedy was at Arlington in 2019 with me, and he always helped me on the Equicizer with all these different workouts to stay fit and to get fit and to help me learn, because riding is a lot of muscle memory. So he would help me with all these ride techniques on the Equicizer to help my muscle memory. So when I got to riding, that it would be a lot more easier and fluent, and I would look better and feel more comfortable. And he was always inspiring me. And I mean, even when I was riding at Delaware the past 2 summers, if I won and he happened to see it, he would, message me, good ride, good job, I like how you did this, and give me just little tips here and there. And he's been a lot of help, and I really appreciate it, because jockeys don't have to help other jockeys, especially bugs and stuff, but we really do appreciate it when they do.
Yeah, we've had our own experience with Ty Kennedy. Actually, Gerard canceled on us for being sick, and he jumped right on. Great guy.
I still don't believe he was sick.
No, he was.
I know, of course he was. So I'm just kidding. He's one of those guys I couldn't figure out. I had to hit the link, man. No, I'm really kidding.
Yeah. Skylar, I know every jockey will say any race, anytime, any distance, but if your ideal race, your ideal distance, you like front runners, you like closers, what's your ideal horse distance track that you feel most comfortable?
I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I think to come to realize that I like to go long on the dirt with a closer. They don't have to be a far closer, but I definitely don't like to be on the lead, because you never know if they're going to fade on the lead or not. But closing, you can usually always get a run out of them. And I seem to be the best with long distance, just getting out there, relaxing, reading the pace, being patient, and making one run out of the horse.
Now, you said after Tampa Bay, you'll be going back to Delaware again. Is there any other track in near future that you may try out?
Well, Delaware's been good to me so far. The 2 summers I've been there, and I mean, obviously, I want to go to bigger, better tracks as I get bigger and better. Keeneland and Santa Anita and all that. And but we'll just have to see what the future brings. But right now, I just stick with Delaware.
Well, with Flavian and Umberto Rispoli going, there's 2 openings at least out there at Santa Anita. You might think about that while you got a shot,
Yeah,
right?
good. Yeah, that's a good point.
Absolutely. So as you prepare to go up to Delaware, what are so between Delaware and Tampa, I noticed when Monmouth was running, there seemed to be a connection between Monmouth horses that ran well at Monmouth tended to do okay at Tampa and vice versa. So maybe they're both sandy tracks. So as you go from Tampa to start the transition to Delaware, what are some of the things that you're going to have to forget about Tampa and remember for Delaware?
I'm definitely going to have to forget that with Tampa, the track doesn't necessarily lay straight like other tracks. It curves kind of like in a half moon. So you really have to, that's why the rail can be so deep. Another reason why the rail can be so deep or so shallow, because if you see most people, they're not in the 1, 2, or 3 path. They're in the 4 path, sometimes the 3 path, because that's where the track seems to be like less deep. And this track can be very lightning fast. And Delaware is more level and more deep. And you don't get as fast times. I mean, you can every once in a while, but Tampa seems to produce those times more. So I'm going to have to really get my timing set back for Delaware races and just the Delaware riders in general, because they don't hustle as fast as the people here, the jockeys here at Tampa. They seem to like to hustle out of the gate, even at 6 furlongs, pretty fast. Where at Delaware, you don't really get that. Everybody kind of sits a little longer and then just hustles down the lane. So I guess they want to get in better position here at Delaware, here at Tampa, because you really do have to ride the track based on how it is. Where Delaware, you're going to get the same consistency. It's always deep, and it's always going to give you about the same times.
So positioning is really important. Jordan PARX wants to know, have you ever ridden at PARX? And if you have, did you like it?
I have not ridden at PARX, but I've heard only good things about it, and I'm hoping this summer I can get a chance to get over there.
Yeah, and that's another track that we've heard that you got to pretty much go right out of the gates, right, Shawn?
Yeah, it's a tricky track too. Depending on the day, again, but usually favors speed.
Says here, watch the moon at Tampa. Track fast when it's full, and when a new moon, think slower. So have you found that to be the case too with the moon? It probably has something to do with the tides, right? A full moon.
Yeah, exactly. The moon plays a lot with the tides, so that makes a lot of sense. When you have to watch the cycle of the moon to know the cycle of the tides and how they're going to be. And then again, that affects the track's layout, which is funny. But as you were mentioning Monmouth earlier, I'm sure that the reason the horses probably do so good at Monmouth and then also down here at Tampa and vice versa is because Monmouth is so close to the water too. I'm sure the water has a play in that track as well.
So speaking of playing, I read that you like to run for fun and you have a couple of dogs. Now, the folks that we've had on before with their dogs, they tend to show them. Where are your dogs?
Oh, my dogs are in Ocala right now. They're not here.
Yeah, well, you'll go get them. That's where Ocala is close to Orlando, right?
Yes.
Indeed, for sure. All right. Any particular amount that you have coming up in the next couple of days or so that you're really excited that horse players should keep an eye on?
Ooh. I'm pretty excited about all of them. I ride on Friday. I ride quite a bit on Friday. I'm excited to have 5 mounts, and they're all pretty good. I run one for Aldana Gonzalez. His name is You Should Be So Lucky. He ran 3rd last time, first off the claim for her, and I really like that horse. He's a very classy horse, and he does everything right, and he tried very hard for me when he ran last time. So I'm excited for this time now that we know each other better and we made a better connection. And, Aldana's gotten to do more work and she's done a fantastic job with him. And I'm excited to see how he'll run this time.
I have a question for you. So when you get on the horse, do you think about winning or do you think about getting the best finish you can possibly get for the connections?
I definitely think about winning. I always go into a race as positive as it can be. Not expecting a win, but, putting that out there, because I truly believe that what you put into the universe is what you get. So I try to be very happy and positive. And once I always ride for the best place, no matter what, I'm always going to ride as if I'm winning. And if that happens to get me 3rd when I would have gotten 5th, then I'm happy. I always try to get the trainers to get something out of it, to get the horse to get something out of it, whether it's learning it or getting fit or just, improving them off their next race is always a thing I really love to do, is to improve them in any way that I can. But obviously the wins is what it's all about. But I'm really always happy with 2nds and 3rds because any chance to give anybody any money especially in these times right now, always makes me happy.
Of course, for you too, right?
Yes. Well, yeah. Tampa's a little different than Delaware. We don't get paid as much. It's a lot harder down here. But it's still really good to make that money when you get first, second, and third.
I'm sure it is, for sure. Shawn, any final thoughts before we let Skylar back to whatever she was doing before we interrupted her later?
So far, what's been your most proudest moment?
Being on this show, Shawn. Come on. Why do you ask such rhetoric questions?
Before tonight.
Oh, I'd say I had, well, I guess there's two really big things. They're kind of equal in my book. Is when I won my first race at Arlington. I went to Arlington in the summer of 2018, and I didn't do well. I didn't have an agent. I was on my own. I didn't win one race. I had a lot of seconds and thirds, and that's a pretty tough colony too when it was still around, sadly. But I went back the next summer, and the first race that I had won there, I won on a horse named Royalty Princess, and we went 5 furlongs on the turf. She had been off for, I think it was like 8 months, maybe 10 months, and I was in the 1 hole, and she was 52-1, and I was really proud of myself because when we broke, there were 2 horses that went to the lead, and I just sat right behind them, and I just waited and waited and waited, and even down the lane, they had started moving. Everybody had started moving. I waited, and I came out from behind those 2 horses and made one run down the lane, and I won it. And that was the best win that I could have got at Arlington to break the ice, because it was on a long shot, and it was just, I just really needed it. And after that, I got on a pretty good roll over there after that until I broke my arm.
Do you find that when you get a win, especially on maybe a horse you're not supposed to win on, that builds your confidence, and as your confidence goes, more success comes?
Oh yes, for sure. Because winning on the long shots shows that you don't need to be on, like, everybody. Not everybody wins on the favorite, but it's easy to win on a favorite. They don't always win, but it's a lot easier to win on them than it is a really long shot. And when you're on a horse that's a long shot and you win, you prove that you and the trainer, you guys got that horse to do something that it had never done before, obviously, because it was a long shot, and you rode the race better than anybody else. You outthought everybody, you maneuvered better than everybody, and you gave the horse the best ability to get to the winner's circle. So I'm always a lot more happy when I win on a long shot than I do the favorite.
Well, because all the people in the stands are a lot nicer, right, when you win on a long shot than when you don't win on a favorite. So that kind of leads right into a question from Jordan. Says, horses have a certain amount of ability. How can a jockey improve performance of the horse?
Well, what I do is whenever I ride a horse that I have never ridden before, or even if I've rode it before, I'll probably still do this. I'll watch the replays of when it did good, even if it was a 4th place and that was the only time it ran 4th. I'll watch the replays to try to see what that jockey did or what that horse experienced in that race that made it so much different for it to be able to get closer to the winner's circle. So whether I watch the race and I see that, 2 months ago when it ran 3rd, that jockey only hit left-handed, okay, the horse liked it when it hit left-handed. That's the only time it hit the board, and the jockey only hit left-handed, so I'll try to go left-handed. Or if I know the horse from getting on it in the morning and I know the horse has a light mouth, I'll try to stay out of the horse's mouth and try to stay more up off its neck and just try to let it carry me with it until it's time to go. Or I'll just try to, like, one time an exercise rider I was riding for, Anthony Ferrero, they told me this horse likes to run against the bit. So when you're ready to go, just start picking him up. And I did, and I started to pick him up more and more and more, an inch, and then I actually won on the horse. It was 8 weeks long. I won a couple weeks ago on him. And so I just try to watch the races, get to know the horse if I can, and try to just make those little notes before I ride it. Okay, it liked this, it didn't like this. It looked like when it was behind horses, it didn't like the dirt. And some things come when you're riding the horse. When you're riding the horse, sometimes you'll notice, oh, my horse doesn't like the dirt. Let me get out from behind the dirt when I go to make my move, because then he'll run.
So you've run at a lot of tracks. Robert Bryan wants to know, of all the tracks you've run at, You've run in Michigan. You've run in Illinois, as you mentioned. You've run in Delaware. You've run in Tampa. You've
New
run just
York.
about everywhere. What's your favorite one to race at so far?
Whew. Well, even though it was very tough at Arlington, I really enjoyed Arlington because the atmosphere was just amazing. They always did something for the crowd. They always had huge crowds, and the crowd loved the horse racing. They were always cheering, and then they were always like, then nobody ever booed. No bettors were really mad. Nobody like threw tickets on the ground furious or anything. They always had something for the family to do, and the track was just absolutely gorgeous. And especially the fact that it's the only freestanding grandstand in North America, meaning it has no pillars in the way of the viewers, so they can completely see the track all the time with no obstructions. And it was just gorgeous and always well kept.
Unfortunately, they closed it. And I think the reason there was no mad people there was because I wasn't there that day. If I had been there, unfortunately, because I spent many a day at Arlington when I was a younger man. So it's a shame that they closed that beautiful track.
I know, it really is. It was such a great track. Well,
maybe they'll reopen. I know they're going to spend a lot of money on Hawthorne. You've ridden at that before, right, Hawthorne?
Yes, I have. Yep, I've won a couple races there.
Any thoughts about maybe coming back to Hawthorne and Stickney in the middle of nowhere?
Not anytime soon. I mean, you never know in this game where you're going to get carried to or where you're going to end up. So I can't say that I'll never end up there again, but I don't plan to as of right now.
Yeah, Tampa's much nicer in the winter than Chicago for sure. And I mean, Stickney, Illinois, it's okay to go to the track, but once you get off the track, there's not a whole else lot to do down there. Just jump right back on I-55 and head on into the city.
Yep.
Well, we do appreciate your time tonight, Skylar. We hope you have a lot of success. We look forward to you. Let's see. We have another question here.
Yeah.
Do trainers keep the same bid on the horse after they win?
Typically, yeah. Unless you win and you go back and you tell the trainer, hey, I won, but it was kind of hard, on the turn, the horse was getting out. You want to try a Houghton bit next time, maybe. Then they might change it. But mostly, if the horse is winning, you try not to change anything. You try to just keep going with it to keep the wins going.
Superstition as well as performance. No question.
Yes, exactly.
Put my left sock on in the morning. I'm putting it on again today. I had a good day yesterday.
Oh, good.
Yes, indeed. So again, we do appreciate you coming, Skylar. Shawn, any final thoughts before we let Skylar go?
No, that's it. I agree with a lot of reviewers. You do your homework, and wish you the best of luck. We'll keep watching your career. Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Have a wonderful night and a great 2022.
Thank you. You too, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
As always, hey, the big head Shawn is back.
I will not change my nickname to that.
Well, you know what? I forgot to tell her, I'm going to tell everybody from now on when they come on to make sure that they put out on their Twitter and all their social media to help us get to 1,000 followers on Twitter, because when we do, Shawn's doing a Speedo TikTok dance with flaming chainsaws.
That is false advertising, Rich. False advertising. And we can thank Ramon Vasquez for that, because he went right with it and he threw it right out there.
Well, what part's false advertising? The flaming chainsaws?
Flaming chainsaws and the Speedo.
You got to pick one or the other. We'll have a poll. Shawn do it, the flaming chainsaws or the Speedo? I think
one's gonna be hazardous to me and one's gonna be hazardous to everybody else.
Well, we'll go with both. We catch the world on fire. It is already anyway. Terry Houghton, thank you for the like on Facebook. Same with you, Robert Bryant, John Caravu. We appreciate that too. Rafiat Mohammed, we appreciate it. Mike, as always, we appreciate it. And I beat that 4 today, Mike, with the 5 horse, with my with the queen horse, Scaramouche. And then somehow that last race, I don't know, what is it about the last race in the pick 4 that's so damn hard to win, Shawn?
Yeah, it happens all the time. I don't know. That's the problem. You can, with those bets, you could be on it for 3 races. You could have cashed a lot of tickets, but when you're in the pick 4, it all comes crashing down there at the end.
Well, we're going to go from a pick 4 to a pick 5 tomorrow, Shawn. So over at PARX, they have a mandatory distribution of the carryover jackpot in the Philly Big 5. Right now, the pot is about $500,000, a little bit under that. It's going to be over. They expect it to be over $1 million. So tomorrow, when Terry and I do the show at 12 o'clock, instead of our prime rib pick 4, where we do a little bit more expensive ticket for the pick 4, we're going to extend it out one race, and we're going to do race 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 for that Philly pick 5 to see if maybe we can take a piece of that $1 million and put it in our bank accounts.
That'd be nice. Mm-hmm. You gonna do the hot dog pick 5 too?
We're gonna do. Maybe we should do a hot dog pick 5, and maybe that's
gonna be hard.
Yeah, I always do hot dogs on my own, though, Shawn. That's how I actually bet. That's where I came up with the idea. I don't like to spread my money so deep because you can have. This happens to me all the time, and God, this one drives me bananas. And I was texting Terry today. I said, "You give me a 13-horse field, I can find the winner. You give me a 3-horse field, you give me a 4-horse field, I can pick the loser." Why is that?
Well, my advice for the 3 or 4-horse field is play speed, definitely, no matter what track it is, because you get a horse out there, lone on the lead, and you have 3 trail. There's no action at all. That's why you get a lot of those. They always say take the bigger price in the short horse fields because of stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's probably why, because you would think the favorite would have a better chance against less horses, but the race doesn't fall apart.
It's all pace dependent. It is absolutely. Yeah. And one thing we talk with Chris Parmalu, who does our Kentucky Derby stuff, and he recommended a book. And I would say to everybody who's watching that it's been helpful for me of late. It's one that you might think about getting yourself. Here it is. And I don't get anything for this. It's called Extreme Pace Handicapping. If you haven't taken a look at it, I would suggest it's like a $20 book. You can get it on Amazon. It'll be at your doorstep in a day or two if you have that Amazon Prime. It kind of helps you set up what the race might look like. And it's been helpful for me in finding a few more prices of late. So you might want to take a look at that if you want to sharpen the saw of your skill, according to Stephen Covey from the 7 Effective Habits of Highly Effective People, Shawn. Speaking of PARX today, there was quite a bit going on at PARX today. Scratches galore because they have a EHV-1 positive. So this is a form of herpes for horses, but this is not, I guess this is a really serious thing for horses. They've quarantined a couple barns, and I guess if a horse gets it, they're at high risk to be put down. So I certainly hope at PARX, that whatever's going on there, that they contain it pretty quickly.
I think the horse that started this, the first one that had it, they did have to put down, if I read this article right. So yeah, then they stopped, and this actually came out Sunday about somebody posted about NYRA was not leaving any PARX invaders in, and they didn't know why. And Scott Lake,
now you know why.
Scott Lake also let me know this was the reason, and he didn't know what the test would come back. Test was supposed to come back yesterday, but obviously it came back positive, and it wasn't good. So sometimes these last, a day or two, sometimes these last a week or two. So I don't know how long until that stuff changes.
Well, I hope they can contain it as quick as possible. Yeah, Charles brings up today in that, God, I was thinking about Charles in that pick 4 for aces 3, 4, 5, and 6. If you had gone taken my 3, I think my top pick won 2 of them, and my third pick won the other 2. But there was one race with the 10, the 11, the 10, the 6, and the 13. I even called out the 13 on the show and didn't put it on my pick 4, my hot dog pick 4 ticket. Those top 3 picks, they did 50 cent, paid out of like $10,600. So one of these days I'll have the right 3 in there to do that on the show. But he's absolutely right. That was there to be had. I hope somebody had it. Unfortunately, I was not one of those people. Maybe tomorrow. But who didn't have it no matter what, Shawn, is the poor people in South Carolina. They can't even bet on horses down there. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, the only thing you can do down there is the lottery. So now they're going to, but now they're going to introduce, there's legislation, I guess it's bipartisan. It's kind of hard to believe there's anything that's bipartisan, but I guess gambling, right, is a bipartisan issue. So they want to introduce gambling. So if you live in South Carolina and you want to bet horses, make sure you hot on the phone and you start to let your legislators know that, hey, I want to bet on horses and help that get it over the finish line, so to speak.
Yeah, so they're not allowed to bet sports there neither. No betting besides the lottery.
Just the lottery, bro.
So if you're addicted to, see, here's what I don't understand about that. If you're addicted to gambling, you're going to be addicted to the lottery too. So, I mean, why not just leave them bet whatever they want to bet? So, yeah, definitely.
You know, one of the things I've always been kind of sticky on is why should another adult tell an adult what they can do with their money? You know, I mean, some things I understand, and there's clearly people who have a problem with gambling. Fortunately, I'm not one of them, even though I do gamble. But I never gamble more than I can afford to lose. I always have a budget. You know, you and I talk about this all the time. I'll bet $5 on a football game, and I'm just as happy as if I bet $5 and win, if I bet 500 and win, because it's actually psychologically true. You get the same like chemical reaction no matter how much money you win. The dopamine, the levels go up the same if you bet $1, if you bet $100. So you get the same satisfaction. So you don't need to bet away your life savings. They get the same enjoyment. And if you do have an issue, in all sincerity, please get it fixed. Go get help. It's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength that you recognize something's wrong and you get it corrected.
And I'll also say, if you enjoy the sport but can't afford to bet or whatever, start getting to know, like we are right here, getting to know the personalities and stuff like that, and start watching it like you watch sports, just for the enjoyment of the sport.
Can I tell you something too, Shawn? I mean, obviously, I'm not Mr. Moneybags, right? I wish I were. My name is Rich, but only in namesake. But one of the things I do, I find that when you put your picks out in public, whether you bet them or not, you want them to win.
Oh, so absolutely.
If you want, what I would suggest doing is opening a Twitter account or a website or whatever. Heck, we're thinking about, I'm looking into adding like a social side to our site where people can register and have like their own profile and stuff like that for horseracingtoday.net. So I would suggest opening up a Twitter account and putting your picks out there in public. And I guarantee you, I actually want them to win more than when I have money on them. And that sounds crazy, but my name is stamped on the ones that are in the universe, right?
No, absolutely.
The stuff I do in private, nobody knows. Probably a good thing for everybody else. It would be as dangerous as Shawn with flaming chainsaws.
Yeah.
Now, you brought this one up yesterday, Shawn. They'll never get it. No, actually, they say it's going to close, that they're actually going to get it to go through. You brought this one up yesterday. Jockey Jose Lezcano in that race where I don't know that we can play it, but I would, if you go to this article, and I'll link to it on the horseracingtoday.net, you'll see there is a link here with the race in it. I don't want to play it because I don't want any of these folks with copyrights and all that stuff banging on my door with letters threatening to take away my kids, my money, and everything that I ever hold dear for the rest of my life over a picture, which is how these letters sound when they come in. Right, Shawn?
Right. So I gave my thoughts a little bit yesterday on this. I'll give it more. The breakdown of this is he's looking around. It looks like the horse is loaded. And then a horse goes to the outside of him, blows by him. He tries to come back on the inside, and he loses by, I don't know.
Well, he never, once the horse passed him, he never got back into the race, really.
Yeah, I mean, but he tried his butt off to win the race. To me, it looked like his horse was loaded. He was looking around to see what his next move was. You know, he didn't see the horse on the outside. I also heard that it's possible the number 2 horse, which was on the inside of him, the jockey hit him with the whip, and maybe that's why he was looking. He could have been talking. I don't know. I know it does look suspicious, but this is that whole everything's fixed type world, and that's why it's been under scrutiny. And I don't think that. I do know there was some stuff with Linda Rice too, with the horse that she let go, I believe, is the one that passed this horse. So there's some controversy there too. So there's a lot to unbag there. I honestly think the horse was going to get beat either way by the 5.
Well, yeah. I mean, it just looked funny. I never seen a jockey look back the way he looked back. He almost went like 180 degrees behind him to see what was going on.
And side to side too.
And normally what they do is they look between their legs. It looked to me like he was having a conversation with somebody, right?
Yeah,
he looked like he said something and then turned back and said, it looked to me like he went back and said something again. So maybe somebody said something to him, called him a name or something. He was not happy about that and let him have it.
And it's possible maybe he did get, I didn't get to watch it close enough to see, maybe he did get hit by the whip, and that was the conversation too. But he definitely was asleep at the wheel as far as the
horse to the outside.
Horse to the outside. And that's where, you know, the horse to the outside got all the momentum, and that's where he lost the race. But I honestly think the 5 is going to win the race anyway.
Yeah, I didn't think he had it. Like once the 5 went by him, it was over. He tried to engage his horse and get him back in, but he never closed any ground on that horse. That race was over the minute the horse on the outside went by him.
This whole fixing thing, though, I mean, I know stuff happens, but these jockeys do get paid for where they finish too. So, I mean,
yeah,
and you can't just put
to me. If you're gonna, you know, I don't know Jose Lezcano. I can't speak to his intelligence level, but I would imagine that he's smart enough that if you were going to do something like that, that would be the exact opposite of what you would do, right? You would try to sit in the back and make it look like you're trying to do something, and the horse is just not responding. You wouldn't like turn around and look and say, "Look at me! I'm doing something so out of the ordinary." Everybody's going to go, "Look at him!"
Yeah, definitely. I just don't buy it because I mean, and I know they can get paid, but you know, this thing that every race is fixed, you can't just put a horse in the winner's circle. If the horse doesn't want to run that day, the horse isn't going to run that day. So you can make sure a horse doesn't win if you really want to get, if there's really that stuff going on. But so much, I mean, look at the Michael Sanchez case. Everything is documented and found out about nowadays. You do anything like that, you're going to get caught eventually. So
that's Calvin Ridley.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How crazy is that too? I mean, he bet on his own team while he wasn't out playing.
But anyway, yeah, that's a whole different story. I don't know. Any case, so well, that wraps up today, Shawn. Tomorrow we are going to have on, and I knew this and I forgot because I've been hitting the head too many times. But who's our guest tomorrow?
David Cabrera, who's been lighting up Oakland the last couple of weeks. So,
and always said
always happy, like you say. So it'll be another great show, and then. Thursday, we have the national handicapping champion of this year, David Harrison. So that will be fun.
I'm coming for you, David. I'm coming for you.
Yeah. Rich is going to want to pick his brain a lot to see what he's got to do to end up exactly where David Harrison. All of us want to pick his brain and figure that out.
So we can maybe learn a couple of things. He said he's an old-fashioned handicapper, so he does but he also plays hunches. He plays names and stuff like that. Now, I don't think it's fixed. To me, I don't. If it were going to happen, it would happen at the smaller tracks where the people don't make a lot of money, where they don't, and there where a $500 paycheck would be a night's worth of work. At tracks like Aqueduct and the bigger circuits, you know, giving up your career for $500, that means you got a lot of other life problems well beyond needing $500, and all that'll come out as well. So, all right, Shawn, that wraps up today. Terry and I will be back at noon tomorrow to do PARX. Thursday, Terry and I will be back at noon to do Gulfstream Park. As I mentioned, tomorrow at PARX, we're going to be doing the Philly 5, at least one of them. We may have a hot dog pick 4 in there as well. Tom and I will return at 1 o'clock on Friday to talk about Australian horse racing. And if you haven't done this already, Shawn, please head on over to horseracingtoday.net. Click on the HRT gear link. Get yourself a shirt and hat with the HRT logo, as well as your favorite horse's number. It's a great way to support the show. And guess what? You're going to look great at the same time. I mean, I've never looked better, Shawn.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's hard to do.
You've been looking good the last couple of weeks, all because of that gear.
Yes, indeed, for sure. So that wraps up today, folks. Of course, while you're here, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe on YouTube and watch as many hours as you can. We need about 500, 600 more hours to get ourselves to where we can monetize with Google, YouTube. We appreciate everybody subscribing. We 100% appreciate all the nice thumbs up that we get today from everybody watching on Facebook, on following us on Twitter. Again, when we get to 1,000, Shawn's doing a TikTok dance in Speedos or flaming chainsaws. He's got to make a choice. We'll have everybody vote which one it'll be. And then, and that's pretty much it. Shawn, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, nobody wants to see that. But, you know, if I got to do something like that at 1,000, when we get to 2,000, Rich is doing something.
Yeah, retiring at 199. I'll do something at 2,000. I've already said that I'm willing to do like the thing with the jockey, where you know when the people use like the jolter thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'll take the jolter thing. I'm not afraid of that.
I'd rather do that than the Speedo.
Well, you better start hitting it. You better start hitting the gym, my friend. Speedos are coming. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us again tonight. Not looking forward to Shawn and Speedos, but I am at the same time. So we hit that 1,000. Help us get there. Help Shawn put on the Speedos and give him some motivation to get in shape. Till we catch up tomorrow, as always, everybody have a fantastic evening.